Families of the Israeli hostages still being held by Hamas in Gaza gather in Tel Aviv, calling on the government there not to abandon the ceasefire deal. Hamas said it was going to suspend the release of more hostages unless Israel upheld truce obligations, accusing them of ongoing bombing in the region and blocking aid. Weighing in on it all once again, the US president said that if it was up to him, all hostages should be released by midday Saturday, or, he said, and I quote, all hell would break loose. Here's a quick listen to some of the families protesting in Tel Aviv.
Mr. President, thank you for the effort you and your staff are making to bring back the hostages. Today is Alon's 21st birthday. I'm asking you with all my heart, do everything in your power to ensure that this deal is continued. Do everything so that Alon and all the hostages will return home.
I really hope it's just like power games, and with the help of the negotiations, we'll be able to agree about what is the problem and solve it, and we will be able to see more hostages getting released on coming Saturday.
The hostages are in a clear and present danger. Their lives are at risk. We saw the horror pictures of the released hostages. Those who are still in there may be in worse conditions. They simply don't have time. Delaying their release means that some of them will not survive. We have to do whatever it takes to get them out of hell and back to life as quickly as possible.
We can cross now live to Jerusalem to our correspondent there, Noga Narnopolsky. Noga, what's the feeling on the ceasefire at this stage?
Well, the feeling is very muddled, as we just saw actually in this report. You have the families of the hostages and their supporters, thousands of people who blocked Tel Aviv and blocked parts of Haifa all over the country yesterday, but it has not gained enough momentum. This movement to try and guarantee that the government stick to the deal has not gained millions. And as a result, the Israeli government seems to be living in a completely separate plane from the people. Prime Minister Netanyahu, for instance, could have called this emergency meeting of the cabinet for last night. This is what even his ministers were expecting, but delayed it today, apparently because this is what would help him delay his expected testimony today at his own trial. And so no matter what steps are taken, Israeli families of hostages feel that the government is acting principally to protect its own self. We're today on day 23 of the 42-day phase one. And one of the stipulations of phase one of this ceasefire agreement is that on day 16, negotiations begin for phase two. Israel is the side that has not been willing to engage in that, and that's the reason for this anger of the people against the government.
Indeed, as you mentioned there, Noga, the corruption trial of Netanyahu seeming to have a massive role in all of this. But we're hearing again, Noga, this morning that there's dozens of Palestinian families fleeing refugee camps in the West Bank. What's the latest you can tell us on that front?
Yes, absolutely. The West Bank is becoming more and more of a front. I can't say of this war, but an ongoing front. And the Israeli army continues not to give clear messaging about what it's really doing. So, for example, the refugee camp of Jenin, which is adjacent to the city of Jenin, has basically been emptied of its population of around 20,000 people, while the army continues to say that it did not issue orders for anyone to leave. Apparently, the population there was persuaded. There is escalating violence between armed militias in the West Bank and the Israeli army, and between Jewish settlers who feel that the land is all theirs to be taken and who feel the support of this government. I should add, I started hearing just in the last few days rumors similar to those we were hearing 4 or 5 years ago that President Trump may be cooking up an offer to Netanyahu, something Netanyahu will be able to offer his most extremist ministers who want Israel to annex the West Bank. He might be offering up a U.S. green light for a partial annexation of the West Bank, which would enable Netanyahu to keep moving forward with the U.S. mediated ceasefire agreement in Gaza, but keep his ministers, most extreme ministers, in the government and thus stay in power, even if he takes these unpopular moves among his ministers.
Okay, one to watch. Noga Narnopolsky. For now, thanks very much indeed.